Ready? Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Trustee Lautner?
Here.
Trustee Zora?
Here.
Here. Trustee Sheehan?
Here.
Trustee Stewart?
Here.
Trustee Caputo?
Here.
President DeCipio?
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Andrea Prue Bunicki, and I'm the CEO of Meals on Wheels in Northern Illinois. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about our services and ask you for your partnership so that we can serve seniors in the Grange Park and help them to thrive. So Meals on Wheels of Northern Illinois has been providing two vital services that help people thrive. The first service we provide is healthy and nutritious meals, and we do that in two different ways. The first is through home delivered meals. So we work with a catering company that provides individual packaged hot meals. And then our volunteers and paid drivers actually drive those meals to seniors every single day. And that visit is something that seniors look forward to. And it's an opportunity to get eyes on that senior who may be isolated because they are homebound. The second way that we provide healthy meals is by inviting people to come to congregate dining. And we have a cafe, a senior cafe in neighboring Brookfield. And we would certainly want to invite seniors to come and participate there. In the cafe, we have not only a hot lunch, but we also do a lot of activity. A lot of bingo is played. And so we would love to invite folks to participate. So who do we serve? We have a charge under the Older Americans Act to serve seniors who are 60 plus, older adults who are 60 plus. And we're reaching out in particular to people who are in low income situations, to people who have limited English proficiency, people who have disabilities, and people, yeah, those are the ones. Pardon me. So thinking about, so my wonderful colleague Gino prepared some information about LaGrange Park and the senior population. So in LaGrange Park, there are approximately 3,100 residents. So that's 23.2% of your residents are aged 60 and older. Almost 4% live below the poverty line. And about 13% of residents speak a language other than English at home, with Spanish being the most prevalent non-English language. These are folks that we would love to reach out and connect with and to serve them healthy, nutritious food and provide some social interaction. So we're asking tonight if you would consider helping us to get the word out to seniors in the Grange Park, to invite folks to come to a cafe, to volunteer. In particular, we're looking for volunteer drivers, and then for folks to support our mission financially. That's a summary of the services for Meals on Wheels of Northern Illinois, and I would be pleased to address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick question I have regarding the expenses. Are those eligible to be covered under Medicare?
So it isn't Medicare. We do, actually. We can, when they are referred by their managed care organization, it is covered under Medicare.
Okay, and then if they deliver a meal to a home and make various health care observations or health status observations, where does that go? How does that get collected and where does it go?
Sure. So, just in the short time that I've been with the organization, I have already heard 3 stories of our drivers who have been out and who have witnessed one of the clients in their home experiencing some kind of distress. What they typically do will call 911, and the ambulance will come and take care of that person. But I've been with the organization for about 2 months, and I've already heard these amazing stories, life-saving stories.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Andrea, thank you for the service that you provide our community. There's a couple up here that we might want to use your service still.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you all for coming. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Any public participation? Anyone care to speak to the board tonight? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda, Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, Village Board meeting, September 24th, 2024. 2, Village Board closed session meeting, September 24th, 2024. 3, Village Board work session, October 8th, 2024. And 4, Village Board closed session meeting, October 8th, 2024. B, action, accounts payable and payroll summary. Motion 1, to authorize the President and Chairperson of the Finance Committee to sign the register for bills, and authorize the Treasurer and Village Clerk to sign checks and payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2, to authorize the Village Treasurer and Village Clerk to sign checks and the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next Village Board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Do I hear a second? A motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Next up on the agenda is Village Manager's Report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one item to report this evening. It is something that has been highlighted in our weekly electronic newsletter, and that is that the village is moving to monthly water billing beginning in February of 2025, where we will transition from the current quarterly billing periods to monthly water billing. And this will make it easy for households to be able to early detect any leaks within their household. Also, as part of this process, we encourage our residents to sign up for paperless bills and online payments, and links are provided through the e-newsletter. We are also getting the word out through inserts in the water bill, and additional information will be sent out through the rose clippings as well as with social media. And unless if there's any questions, that concludes my report for this evening.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to Thank you, Julia. We'll move on to Administration Committee. Trustee
Thank you,
Council.
President DeCipio. The administration report is as follows. There's an ADA transition plan, which is a community engagement event. The village, in partnership with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, also known as CMAP, is kicking off the development of an ADA transition plan for public sidewalks throughout the community. Primary goal of an ADA transition plan is to identify sidewalks and curb ramps that serve as barriers to access and develop a schedule to eliminate these barriers. Since no one knows the challenges faced better than the residents of the village, a community engagement event will be held on October 24 from 5 to 7 p.m. at Village Hall to gather feedback and learn more about how people use the sidewalk network throughout the village. For more information about this project, please see the village's website. If you require accommodations, please reach out to Travis Helmkamp, who is the project manager, and his email address is listed in the agenda. At least 72 hours prior to the kickoff meeting. I'm sorry, on the website. Halloween trick-or-treating hours. Halloween trick-or-treating hours this year are from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, October 31st for the Village of LaGrange Park, Village of LaGrange, Village of Western Springs, and City of Countryside. Enjoy the holiday and remember to use caution while driving throughout the villages during trick-or-treating hours. Vehicle sticker and dog license renewals. New vehicle stickers and dog licenses are now available for purchase, and the deadline for renewal is October 31st. Residents are encouraged to renew their stickers and licenses online. Please visit the village's website for more information and call the village hall with any questions. Smashing Pumpkin event. The Grange Park Sustainability Commission's annual Smashing Pumpkin event will take place on Saturday, November 2nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Retire your jack-o'-lantern and other live pumpkin decor in an environmentally friendly way by dropping them off at the Public Works facility at 937 Barnesdale Road. Pumpkins will then be transported to a local farm for composting. And last is, don't forget to fall back. Central Standard Time officially begins at 2 o'clock a.m. on Sunday, November 3rd. Remember to change your smoke detector batteries when you move your clocks back 1 hour. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Moving on, Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the building department activities from just September of 2024. 79 building permits were issued in September 2024 compared to 73 in 2023. As of September, the pace of permit submittals year to date is slightly more than the pace of submittals at this time last year. Estimated construction costs for last month were just over $1.5 million, which is less than the just over $2 million that was realized in September 2023. The variation in construction costs can be attributed to Plymouth Place corridor renovation work that was active at this time last year. Permit fees collected last month equalized $28,540, which is slightly less than the $34,844 of permit fees collected in September 2023. 183 building inspections were conducted this past month compared to 188 in 2023. 3 were not approved. A total of 16 new code enforcement cases were recorded last month. 4 of those projects were closed out, and the remaining 12 cases require further code enforcement action. And I have 2 items for discussion and action. The first one is for Peculia LLC. Wood Food Systems, LaGrange Park is the applicant, is seeking a special use permit to allow wholesale distribution ancillary to retail at 1140 North Maple Avenue. Wood Food Systems is currently located at the subject property, having replaced the previous custom glass company. Wood Food Systems is the exclusive distributor in the Chicagoland area for Broaster Company in Northern Illinois and Wisconsin for South Pride Barbecue pits and smokers. The company also sells flour, sauces, seasonings to commercial kitchen customers and the general public. The applicant maintains an office showroom at the subject property and performs product demonstrations at the adjacent restaurant Bill's Place at 1146 North Maple Avenue. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing regarding the application on September 17th, 2024. The applicant attended the hearing and provided testimony. The minutes from the meeting, court reporter transcript, and approved finding of facts are attached in our packet. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the special use permit for wholesale distribution ancillary to retail, subject to the condition that all loading and unloading of deliveries must take place inside the building by a vote of 6-0. Staff concurs with the recommendations of Planning and Zoning. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a special use permit for wholesale distribution ancillary to retail for 1140 North Maple Avenue for Peculia LLC, a Wood Food Systems in LaGrange Park.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Trustee Zora.
Thank you. I did not attend the meeting, but I did read the transcripts. So I feel like I did talk to one of the commission members. So I think I have a good grasp of what happened and the issues. It seems that the main issue was deliveries, and the Planning Commission addressed this by making the condition of loading and unloading deliveries that must take place inside the building. And if for some reason the owner defaults on this, then their special use permit can be revoked, and then they would have to come back to the board, as I understand it, to have this reinstated. So I feel like the village has been doing everything they can for the situation, and they've covered the board. The Planning Commission has covered their bases with this, so I don't see any issue approving this. If there's a concern or a violation, then it'll be addressed at this time. Only one comment I had for that resident that did attend and then provided us additional documentation, and they spoke at the previous meeting, is that they should, if there's an issue, that they should contact the police chief immediately, and not via email. I believe the request was to do it via phone. Is that correct? Oh, LTAC. Okay, immediately. Okay. So that was the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Any comments from the board? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, in evaluating this and going through the text of the public hearing, one of the things that came to light is the discussion about, well, if there is a violation, what is the possible remedy, of course. But there was also reference to thresholds. And is there a threshold at which that special use permit might be revoked? So my question is it advisable to discuss, well, what would the threshold be? That would need to be determined. Or is it just once? Or is it any time that we determine that, okay, well, enough is enough? Or should that be discussed prior to this being approved? Or can it be done retroactively?
Counsel?
First of all, just by way of background, the fact that the Planning and Zoning Commission inserted the condition that all deliveries take place inside was really just a way of overemphasizing a condition which is already in our zoning ordinance related to this particular special use. So for this particular special use, it's a violation of our zoning code if the deliveries do not take place inside. It is also a violation of the special use permit. I'm not sure it's advisable. And second point is, as with any violation of the zoning ordinance or a condition of a special use permit, including the conditions under which Plymouth Place occupies its special use permit or any other of our business owners have special use permits, the special use permit doesn't automatically get revoked. Someone, the village or a member of the public, has to petition the board to revoke the special use permit. I think it's very difficult in this particular situation to establish a threshold about what will happen if someone observes a delivery not taking place inside. I think it's very fact specific. I think if it happened once, it's up to the village. You can do whatever you want. I don't know that you'd want to revoke the special use permit if one delivery happened not inside. But I think the bigger issue is these have to be documented, and we have two businesses that sit side by side, one of which is not subject to the special use permit or the requirement of inside deliveries, and the other one is. So it's a little tricky to determine where these deliveries are going. So I think we have to really consider how this plays out in real life before we start establishing a threshold, and just deal with these situations as they come. But I have a question for Tim. I mean, if somebody violates a zoning ordinance, can you give them a citation, the type that would end up in the new adjudication court? The zoning code is part of the municipal code, so I assume this would be a violation of the zoning code. The revocation of the special use permit would be an extra remedy. But I think you need for the village to make a determination that the violation occurred in the first place. I'm not sure that it has to be witnessed firsthand by the police, but that's an enforcement issue.
Thank you for that clarification. That does help. Another question that I would have, though, is, and I'm not going to try to question why and what the reasoning is behind deliveries have to be inside or outside, but you know, there's been a long history here between these two, I'll say, residents, two parties within the village, both which, you know, are longtime residents and longtime businesses in the community. And it just seems like, you know, it just goes on and on. So anything that we can do to try to, bring this together. And I totally understand that we have to get started. It's a separate business. I understand that. It's a separate special use permit. But the part where it said that the requirement of indoor deliveries, was that specifically added to the special use verbiage? So that's actually incorporated, because it sounds like it was done after the public hearing was closed.
Correct.
Correct. That is a use standard for this new special use that was added to the zoning code earlier this year, and the Planning and Zoning Commission included that as part of a condition for this particular special use permit recommendation for approval.
Well, I just hope that this goes forward in a positive manner for both parties. I know everyone has the same feeling, and I concur with council here that, we got to get started. We got to see what we're up against, and hopefully it will be a non-issue. That's what we all hope. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lauder. Any comments? Most all of us know Dimitri and Bill, and they provide a great service to our community through Bill's Place, and they've always been accommodating when we've had issues with the neighbors in the area. That Bill has always been acclimated to fix it. I don't see any difference here with Dimitri, and I think that they'll do everything possible to make sure that this works, because they want it to work. So, no further comments. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Launer,
Yes.
Zora,
Yes.
Trustee Council,
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you. The second item I have is for Postal 31, located at 1017 East 31st Street. They're requesting a temporary use permit and a variation from the fire code in order to construct a temporary tent structure over the existing outdoor dining patio at the rear of the property. Enclosing the outdoor patio with this temporary structure will allow the business to extend outdoor dining from November to April. The owner applied for this and was granted these approvals in 2020 for the same request. The proposed clear span tent structure is 30 feet long by 30 feet wide. The structure will be enclosed by a fabric roof, fabric walls on all sides, and it will have 2 doors along the south wall facing the restaurant to provide ingress and egress. The 5-foot separation between the temporary tent structure and the existing building will be covered. The interior of the tent structure will be heated, lit, and seasonally decorated. Due to the size of the tent, the structure needs to be affixed to the ground in a semi-permanent manner, bolted into the concrete as it was done in 2020. Temporary use structures are regulated in Section 153.195 of the Zoning Code, specifically Section 153.195C8, permit tents in the commercial district for up to 14 days. In this case, village approval is required because Postal 31 is requesting to install a temporary tent structure that does not comply with the time frame required by the code. The village code requires that the structure include a fire suppression system. Due to the temporary nature of the structure, the owner is seeking relief from Section 91.06 Amendments to International Fire Code, Amendment Number 11, subsection 903.2, which states all new buildings and structures of all use groups other than 1 and 2 family dwellings shall be protected with an automatic fire sprinkler system installed and maintained in accordance with NFPA 13. The village code identifies the village board as the Board of Appeals to consider variations from the fire code. The applicant is also requesting that the village waive the $500 variation application fee. The owner requested and was granted a waiver for this application fee in 2020 at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Staff's recommendations are based on the application materials as well as information shared during an in-person meeting with the applicant on October 10th and subsequent communications regarding details of the project. Staff recommends approvals of the temporary use permit and application for fire code variation subject to certain conditions to allow the installation of the temporary tent structure. The same approvals were granted by the village board in 2020, and staff does not have any concerns about the owner utilizing this temporary tent structure again. A detailed evaluation of the fire code variation request is included in the attached memo. If these requests are approved, the owner will be required to obtain a building permit prior to installing the structure. As part of the building permit application, the applicant must provide additional information, included but not limited to lighting, electrical, exit signage, exit door design, heater design, and location, framing details, and documentation of flame retardancy. There are 3 motions. The first motion is to approve a temporary use permit for Postal 31 located at 1017 East 31st Street to allow for the construction of a 900 square foot temporary tent structure over the existing outdoor dining patio to be occupied on or after November 1st, 2024, to be removed no later than April 1st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. 1, the temporary structure may be permanently affixed to the ground for the duration of the temporary use permit, and 2, the variation from the village code requiring the installation of a fire suppression system be attained for the duration of the temporary use permit.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion, trustee Zora?
Thank you. I did visit the site just because I wanted to understand exactly what the plan was for the tent. And it will have 2 exits. So one would be near the current emergency exit outside, and this would be 5 feet away from the existing building. And the structure would be up from, I was told today, October to April, but this says November 1st. So I think it would be around that time. It makes sense to me to have this. I mean, I think it was really helpful during COVID because there were a lot of restrictions on space, but just the need for additional dining in the winter, since the outdoor patio is not in use, would be really helpful. And the fact that they're going to decorate it for the holidays, I think would be really nice for the town too. So I'm in favor of this.
Any comments from the board?
Thank you, President DeCipio. I
Trustee
wanted to
Council?
ask, thank you. I wanted to ask council or Dean about the fire suppression system. My understanding of fire suppression is sprinkled.
Yeah.
In being that this is a fabric type of structure, what are your feelings about fire suppression and the necessity for it?
I think it's, put me in a weird spot, I think it's very critical in most instances. But in evaluating the overall, that this is a temporary use, that the tent is supposed to be fire resistant, that we will be limiting the number of people in there, you know, that's limited to 19. We had a discussion with him. He said 19 or 20. It was 19 is what he requested last time, so that's what we told him we would present. You know, I always think sprinklers are the ultimate fire protection, but again, based on an evaluation of the tent structure, the limited occupancy, and the temporary use, I guess that's where you got my recommendation. You know, I'll be honest, it's not always a strong recommendation to eliminate sprinklers, but again, based on the considerations, it's our recommendation to allow for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the consideration of limiting the number of people, and I think that certainly will go a long way at making this conducive to egress. I guess that's the big concern. Was any consideration given to table placement? I mean, will it be appropriate or necessary to have a center aisle for egress in the event of an emergency? Is that something that would typically be looked at?
We'll look at that when we get up to the, you know, them putting the tables in or changing the tables around if they're using the existing ones. We did get a drawing, although be it a little crude last time, but we did not get it this time. He said it would be the same thing with the exception of potentially putting some holiday decorations in the center. He talked about a Christmas tree. We talked about it had to be fake and fire resistive. So we will look at the exiting and how the tables are laid out once that goes in place.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. On this motion, I have one question, and that is, is one fire extinguisher going to be sufficient?
There's going to be other ones in the restaurant, you know, that are existing. I think for that area, by the fire code, it covers it. So it's a good question. We could always recommend additional ones, but, you know, for the square footage, it's adequate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Second motion, to grant a variation from the Village of the Grange Park Municipal Code, Chapter 91, Fire Prevention and Protection, Section 91.06, amendments to the International Fire Code, Amendment Number 11, subsection 903.2, subject to the following conditions. 1, no candles or other open flames shall be allowed inside the tent. 2, occupancy is limited to 19 persons or less, and the maximum occupant load posted. And 3, a minimum of one 10-pound ABC type fire extinguisher is located within the tent structure.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, trustee Zora?
Thank you. Again, I wanted to make note that we did approve this in 2020. Granted, I know it was because it was during COVID, but this did happen before. And also to the point of having accessibility in the tent, they'll also have to meet ADA requirements, so they'll have to have proper aisle widths, so that should help with the exit. And again, I approve this.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief or Ed, maybe directed toward you. As far as heating the enclosure for the winter, I take it it's going to be like a propane type heat setup, kind of like what the other restaurants around town, neighboring communities are using. Do we know how it's going to be heated? And if so, where are those propane tanks going to be properly secured?
If I remember correctly, I need to remind myself here by looking at this. I believe it was a electric heater, correct? That
sounds right. I don't think it's propane. And I think there's 2, he had said to me.
I just have to go back and look.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything, so okay.
There was something submitted last time, and he said it's the same thing. I don't know if we included it in the drawings in this. Did we, Meg? Okay.
Okay.
Is it natural gas? Yeah, I'd have to go back. I apologize for not knowing.
Wait, Chief, what that, sorry. Natural gas portable heaters to the back? All right.
Yeah, we were very specific last time, and we told him he would need to be this time when he comes in with the building permit as to lay out where the heater's going to be located so it doesn't block aisles, things like that, because it'll be on the outside of the tent, possibly between the building and the tent. I'm not sure yet.
Can you guys follow up on that and let us know what kind of source of fuel it's going to be? So appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Lautner? Oh, I'm sorry. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Council?
Thank you, President DeCipio. Again, condition 3, a minimum of one 10-pound ABC fire extinguisher. I don't feel that's sufficient, Dean. I'm sorry to say it, but this is a life safety issue, and considering that it is enclosed and considering the materials that are being used, I would say it needs to be higher than a minimum of 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Chief, did you want to respond?
No, just where that comes from, there's the NFPA 10, which is the National Fire Code for fire extinguishers. And for ordinary combustibles, you're allowed a 75-foot travel distance to get to one extinguisher. The tent's only 30 by 30, so I agree with you in that the more is better, and I'd appreciate it more. But that's why we did say just one to try and comply, which would even be more stringent than the code. But again, I respect your opinion, and obviously the more the better.
Any other comments? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you. The last motion, to waive the requirement under section 91.3G of the municipal code to submit an application fee in the amount of $500 for a variation from the Fire Prevention and Protection Code.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second discussion, Trustee Zora?
So I guess what was the reason for waiving this fee? Did just the request put through? Is this an unusual request that we usually waive? I know we did in 2020, but just asking why.
I think the applicant is requesting the waiver because it's a temporary structure.
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of in between. I guess I want to see what the rest of the board says on this. It's $500. I don't think it's a big fee. I don't know.
Any comments from the board? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, 2020, we did what we had to do to keep places going, and with the pandemic, it going as full speed as it was back then. I appreciate everything Mr. Cornick does for the village with the Special Olympics, the FOP nights, and he's a very respectable entrepreneur, but I'm not comfortable because I think this could, moving forward, set a precedent that we might not want to start. So for that, I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Question that I would have on this, is there a precedent that's already been established outside of COVID times?
I'd have to go back and check our notes. We did have a couple of variation requests. I don't remember if our code had been changed at that point to require a $500 fee before or after those previous fire code variation requests. I don't believe, at least in recent years since COVID, there's been a precedence. And initially, I can tell you back when we decided, we used to have a way to get a variation without a fee, which was years ago. The reason the fee was put in place for two reasons: to make sure the applicant was serious and wanted to pursue the application, but also the time that it took to do the research to evaluate. And it was COVID last time, so we didn't worry about it. We were doing a lot of work for a lot of things, trying to get through it. But at that point, where much of this initial research came, there was a lot of time writing the memos, looking at the fire codes, trying to evaluate the pros and cons. So that, I think, is why we actually put something in place, because some of the fire code variations can be technical and complex, and that was the other reason we would put the fee in place. So again, it was temporary use, I think, like Maggie or Julia had said. And then back then, I think we were in the middle of COVID, so just for your consideration. So.
I actually have one other question. So there's the $500 for the variation, and then it's on top of the permit fee, correct? And then is this an annual, the $500 and the permit fee is an annual? No.
500 is one-time variation fee.
Correct? Okay, so that would be it. Okay.
So there's a temporary use permit fee, and then there's a building permit fee
Okay.
as well.
But this $500 will only be one time.
This would be the second time.
But if he asks for it annually, does he pay it annually, is my question?
It's not an annual fee, the variation.
Okay. But did he pay it in 2020? No, okay.
We
He did
waived it
not,
in 2020.
that's right, it was waived during COVID.
But if he paid it in 2020, then would he be paying it now? But I guess I'm just, okay, so in 2025, when he comes back again, he will just be paying the building permit fee and not the special use $500.
It's my understanding he would have to, because this variation is for this special use, which will have to be reapplied for next year unless something changes, at the code wise. I could be wrong, but that's how I understand it. It's pertaining to this temporary special use, which probably expires within a year, right?
Yes, the temporary use is limited per the motion that was before the board. It really, I looked to the village attorney, but I think when we discussed it, we were looking at the variation from the fire code as an annual process to go along with this temporary use permit with the tent. We can handle it differently, but next year the framing will be the same, but the tent material could be different. Things can change. The conditions may change. And so we would review that. But
Okay.
Kathy, if you feel that one variation is all that's necessary, we can take that under consideration.
Yeah, I was saying one variation for each term of the temporary use permit, which spans more than a calendar year. because he's going from October or November through April, you know. But since the variation expires, when the temporary use permit expires, then technically, if he comes in next year for the same thing, he's gonna have to pay the same variation, unless either we change the code to suspend the sprinkler requirement for these types of structures.
Okay.
That would be one thing we could do, or at that point, since he paid the fee this year, you could decide to waive it next year, you know?
Okay.
But
And then,
just the only other point before we leave Trustee Lautner's question, I just wanted to comment that in general, even for our businesses that are nonprofit entities, we typically don't waive permit fees, zoning application fees, any of those fees. So in terms of precedence, there's really not a precedent for waiving fees, even for our charitable organizations, such as Pillars.
okay. And then I did have one other question. So the jewel structure that is up in the parking lot every year, I know it's different and does not require a sprinkler system because it's away from the building. So there's no variation. So they don't have any additional application fee annually, do they?
They do for the application for a temporary use permit.
Okay, so they have the temporary.
That's
use.
$50 annually.
Okay. And then one other question for you, Chief Magos. So in instances like York Tavern and Oak Brook, do they waive their sprinkler system, their fire suppression out there, or do you know how other municipalities handle these tents?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I could look into it, but I don't know.
Okay, because I am curious. I mean, I feel like I don't have an issue with not waiving the fee this time, but it does seem, if we're going to be doing this every year, that on top of the permit fee, I imagine is a kind of a substantial amount over the years.
Yeah, and I can understand from the board's perspective. From my perspective, I'm not, I am, but I'm not worried about the fee. I would just like it to be reviewed in depth every year in case something changed.
Okay. So, I guess moving forward, do we say that this, it seems like we're in agreement that this $500 fee will happen this year, that it's reviewed next year, or how do we handle this? Because the board may be changing next year, we don't know.
Intention that we look at this each year.
Okay, just, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zor. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Caputo?
Has there anything been established where, or we don't have anything in code where we have permanent pricing and we have temporary pricing? Maybe it might be a little steep if they feel that it's an annual expense, that the 500 is for a full year or permanent thing. Is there any variance that could be considered to still charge him, so we don't set a precedence that we're waiving fees for certain businesses but not others, but yet still not get him for the full amount since he's not using that tent structure for the full year? Is that something that could be looked at or considered? Maybe that could be a win-win for us, generating dollars, but yet not, doing favors for some businesses and not others if we waive it for him and not somebody else.
Great point, Trustee Caputo.
I think when we put the fire variation permit or application fee in place, we have just the one level. And we did not consider any fire variation application costs short of that for any temporary uses. This is just a very novel type of structure for the village to consider and how it apply and how our various codes apply, because the structure is affixed to, below grade and the framing. It triggers certain requirements within the fire code that may not otherwise exist if the framing was done or the tent was secured in some other way. So that's what triggers the requirement for sprinkling, right? It's the way that the structure is affixed to the ground and the manner by which that it is. Certainly, if we want to consider some other subsequent fee, we can certainly put something together for the board's consideration after the first year, subsequent to the first year.
Yes, I think, Trustee Caputo's got a great point. I think, it's up to the board next year to determine if there's a lot of extensive work that has to be done because of changes that are involved, and certainly we consider the full fee, but if he comes back every year and he's successful in what he's doing, we may want to discount the fee or give him some consideration down the road. And I hope the whole board doesn't change.
Me too.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Any other comments?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Any comments from the board? Megan, call the roll, please.
Trustee Lautner?
No.
Trustee Zora?
No.
Trustee Council?
No.
Trustee Sheehan?
No.
Trustee Stewart?
Nope.
Trustee Caputo?
No.
The motion fails by unanimous vote, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Zora.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to engineering capital projects. Jermaine, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Construction on the Edgewood and Richmond water main project is substantially complete with landscape work installed in the second week of September. A punch list inspection of the project was completed and the minimum issues on the list will be addressed in October. A pre-construction meeting was held with J. Narduli Construction Company for the Park Road Improvement Project. The work is scheduled to begin on the first week of October. Construction notice was delivered for all property owners that will be affected by the project. The project will be completed by mid-November of this year. The award for the contract for the 2023 pavement patching program was made to Schroeder Asphalt Services. The work includes asphalt pavement patching in various locations throughout the village. A pre-construction meeting is scheduled for October. The projected project schedule has work beginning in October and being completed by mid-November of this year. The award of a contract for the 2024 sidewalk program was also made to Narduli Construction. In Inc., the work includes replacement of sections of sidewalk and curb and gutter at various locations throughout the village. A pre-construction meeting is scheduled for October. The projected project schedule has work beginning in October and being completed by mid-November of this year. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you, President DeCipio. I'm going to start out first with the monthly police department summary of activities for September. In addition to the attached statistics summaries, the following items are being reported to apprise the village president and board of trustees on current police department operations through the month of September 2024. The total number of crimes this year is approximately 20% lower than last year, with 200 reported this year compared to 240 last year. Traffic enforcement is at 3,784 total tickets issued through September of 24. Overall, police for the month of September 2024 is reported at 952 total incidents. Of these 952 total incidents, 38 were assists to the fire department, 227 were self-initiated buildings or park checks, 115 were traffic stops, and 35 were closed home checks. Of note, staff also had to conduct 25 fingerprintings for School District 102. Department members attended 275 hours of training along with the completion of required monthly online training and lexible daily training bulletins. Department members attended state-mandated high-risk traffic stop training hosted by Detective Nick Spurgash. The police department participated in several September 11th ceremonies within Grange Park and neighboring communities. Staff also assisted Forest Road and Ogden Avenue School with back-to-school events. Chief Contois was elected into the parliamentarian position with the West Suburban Chiefs of Police Association. Police department staff assisted with several Friday night Nazareth football games, and on Saturday, September 26th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the lobby of the LaGrange Park Village Hall. The police department, in coordination with the DEA, will be hosting a drug take-back event. Residents can discard expired prescription or over-the-counter medication by placing the pills into a baggie and disposing them into an approved container located in the lobby by the Village Hall. Reminder that no needles, pill bottles, or liquids will be accepted. And a friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residences, especially during overnight hours. If you're going on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, Frontline PSS village.com/LaGrange Park, or log onto the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, feel free to fill out the vacation watch card at the police department between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Now on to my fire report for the month of September. EMS incidents this month, 141. There have been 1,412 year-to-date compared to 1,396 year-to-date in 2023. Fire rescue incidents this month were 59. There have been 496 year-to-date compared to 440 year-to-date in 2023. Deputy Fire Chief Norm Rick retired from the department on September 13th. He was recognized at an employee luncheon cookout, an informal fire department walkout, and the village board meeting. We thank him for his vast contributions made to the department, and he will surely be missed. An assessment center was conducted to develop a lieutenant's promotional list, and several personnel participated in the 9/11 Twilight Memorial Ceremony at Memorial Park, displaying the American flag from our ladder truck and providing a bell service. Chief Magos attended the Illinois Fire Chiefs Conference in Peoria, attending various sessions. Hazmat team personnel attended radiation training with the FBI and the IEMA. Firefighters Maddie Ulrich and Emma Ellison participated in a hands-on training event with Fire Service Women of Illinois at the Illinois Fire Service Institute in Champaign, and personnel finished hose testing for the 2024 house testing cycle. The fire department personnel participated in the Lyons Township High School homecoming parade. Congratulations to Captain John Seneca, who was promoted to Deputy Fire Chief this month. And our annual open house was held on September 28th. Even though there was some drizzle and misting, a few hundred people attended the event. And our fire safety education lessons and demonstrations were all held as planned. Personnel also raised over $650 for Camp I Am Me, the Illinois Camp for Burn Victims. A couple incidents to share with you. On Saturday, September 14th at 7:46 p.m., the fire department responded to a carbon monoxide alarm at 442 Homestead. Extremely high levels of carbon monoxide were discovered coming from a faulty gas range. Gas was shut off to the unit, and the building was ventilated by firefighters, reducing carbon monoxide to safe levels for occupants. Last incident was September 16th at 11:30 p.m. The fire department responded to 1634 Finsbury for smoke detectors activating and residents reporting smoke on the second floor of the home. The incident was caused by a smoldering plastic flower pot that the family was using to burn incense in it. Firefighters ventilated smoke from the home. I have two more items on the agenda. Next is the subject of the sale of a surplus vehicle. The purpose is to designate a surplus vehicle for sale. General background is that the police department has the following item which has been determined to be surplus. Vehicle ID number, which is here, which is a 2014 Chevy Caprice, has a blown engine. Staff recommendation, approve ordinance. The motion is to approve an ordinance authorizing the sale of the surplus property owned by the Village of LaGrange Park.
Second.
Motion second, discussion, trustee Caputo?
Yes, I think this is great. If we have no use for it and we could sell it and make some money off its use for another purpose, I think this is a wise choice there.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes,
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
thank you. I have one more item for discussion. It's the Grant Award Taser 10 package. General background is on October 1st of 2024. We received confirmation that the LaGrange Park Police Department was awarded $15,686 grant from ILEAS, the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, for the purchase and deployment of 5 Axon Taser 10 and energy weapon packages. The Axon Taser 10 is the latest advancement in non-lethal defense technology, offering enhancements, features to improve officer safety and suspect compliance. This addition aligns with our commitment to providing officers with state-of-the-art tools to ensure the safety and security of our community. Some of the key features of the Taser 10 include increased range. The Taser 10 extends the range to 45 feet, giving officers more flexibility in handling situations from a safer distance. Multiple cartridge capacity allows for up to 3 successive firings without needing to reload, which can be critical in rapidly evolving situations. Enhancing accuracy, improved targeting capabilities ensure a higher probability of hitting the intended target, reducing the risk of bystanders. And the last item on there is the data collection. Integration with Accent suite of software for incident tracking and analysis enhances transparency and accountability. This grant covers the purchase of 5 Taser 10 packages. These packages include the Taser 10 handle, live duty magazine, battery pack, halt cartridges 5, live cartridges 17, holster, and all applicable training, including up to 5 departmental certified trainers for the first year. The police department would be responsible to years 2 through 5 of the agreement, with an annual cost of $9,354.85, which would be budgeted for. This cost includes all required yearly training, certifications, software, training cartridges, and a full warranty on all equipment. Staff recommendation is that the staff recommends approval of the agreement between the Village of LaGrange Park Police Department and the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System in the amount of $15,686 at this meeting on today. The motion, this item is up for both discussion and action. Additional information is provided in the attached documentation, and the motion is to authorize the Village of LaGrange Park Police Department enter into this agreement with Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, accepting a grant in the amount of $15,686 for 5 Taser 10 packages, and second, to authorize the village manager to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Trustee Caputo.
Well, as I read and I read the additional information too, obviously we want to keep up with modern technology, and also we want safety, not only for civilians, for our policing staff, but as it said, also innocent bystanders. So I think with this new technology and having the grant available to us, I think we should take advantage of it. I'm in favor of it for sure.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo. Any other comments? Trustee Lautner?
Thanks, Mr. President. Just to confirm, the 935485 would start into the next fiscal budgeted year. Yes. So, okay, so very good, thanks.
Any other comments? Trustee Council?
I'm glad to see this on the agenda, and I fully support anything that we can do to make the police officers' jobs better and a little more easy. It's not an easy job to be a police officer in this day and age, so I fully support this, and thank you, Tim, for going to after the grant money as much as you possibly can. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Megan, call the roll.
Mr. President?
Yes, Trustee Sheehan?
Sorry, one quick question. Tim, as far as the staffing issue, do all officers carry a taser now?
So we currently don't utilize tasers. No one in LaGrange Park. We are one of very few municipalities in the state that does not currently utilize a taser. So I believe that was probably one of the reasons why we were awarded the grant, along with the federal use of force certification that we have, and then of course the ILEAP accreditation, we have that as well. So we were awarded the 5. The federal government cut the initial funding from multi-millions to about $4 million to cover those departments in Illinois. So I did put in for 21. We got awarded the 5.
So in future years, you thought of expanding, correct?
There could be. Let's see where we go. There's an expense to them, and then of course there's a legacy with them as well, cost. So we'll start with the 5 and see where we go.
So the 5 taser units, Axon, would they be tied in any way at any time to the Axon body cameras or no?
Yeah, so you actually, as soon as they get deployed from the holster, the data is collected, and then it gets stored in evidence.com. So we currently have the Axon body cams, the in-car cameras, and then our interview room equipment. So it would all be on the same profile of evidence.com.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes, Chief, question. So since you only got 5, will it be a shared equipment that you'll use per shift? You'll pass on that piece to whoever's working the shift to use in lieu of not everyone being able to have their own individual one?
Yeah, so we'll have 5 with the officers on the street. Generally, we have 3 or 4 working at a time. That includes the supervisor. They will be issued those tasers for their patrol duties, and then we'll have extra batteries, and they'll be exchanged at the end of the shift.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, that was my question.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Caputo.
Thank
Mr.
you,
President?
Disappeal.
Yes, I'm sorry, Julia, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate and underscore the upcoming drug take-back event, which is hosted by the Grange Park Police Department in conjunction with the DEA. That is taking place this Saturday, October 26th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the lobby of this building, right outside here. That's all I wanted to clarify, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, moving on, Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. For September, staff repaired 3 water main breaks, installed a new fire hydrant, and replaced 2 lead service lines with copper pipe. The brush collection program continued for October and will continue the first full week through October. That's over with. Hydrant flushing continued on the east side of town. Thermoplastic street striping was installed this month on Hardy in various locations throughout the village. Jeremiah Bowman was hired to fill the maintenance worker position. He spent most of the month training for his CDL and has obtained his license. We welcome him to the department and to the village. Tree removals were completed by staff and contractors and will continue throughout the year. Street patches were completed along with parkway restorations. GIS work has continued collecting data on village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 3. 15 monthly bacterial samples were taken. Various water and sewer work orders were completed along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. And routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was completed, as well as on police and fire vehicles. Okay, next we have the renewal agreement with Municipal GIS Partners. The purpose is to renew an agreement with multiple Municipal GIS Partners, Inc., as they are the GIS Consortium service provider. General background, during the original membership within the GIS Consortium, it was mentioned that communities must re-enter into new agreements for each calendar year with service providers. Municipal GIS Partners has supplied a new contract supplemental statement of work for the calendar year 25 with the not to exceed amount of $48,137.52, an increase of 4.49%. You see the budget breakdown, $51,000 in the fiscal year 24-25 budget by the departments. MGP continues building the GIS system, including the village's underground infrastructure, street lighting, and tree inventory. MGP has included several new story maps on the village's website, including capital improvement projects, TIF, and BDD projects, zoning map, property search, and community map viewer. Staff recommends re-entering into an agreement with Municipal GIS Partners as the service provider for GIS. Therefore, Mr. President, make a motion, 1, to approve an agreement with the Municipal GIS Partners Incorporated, and 2, to authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion, Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I just had one question for staff. The increase of 4.49%, is that a little higher? Is that about what it was last year? I couldn't find anything what it was last year.
that information. I can look it up for you. If you give me a few minutes, I can look it up.
Or just let us, tomorrow will be fine. You don't have to.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, yeah, the GIS is exciting. I mean, I know JJ and the crew will, you know, attest to the fact that it makes working a little easier when you can see what's in the ground below you. Otherwise, I would support this.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any other comments? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Okay, next we'll go to the 2024 leaf loading, transportation, and disposal. The purpose, staff is seeking the village board's approval to enter into a new contract with Landscape Material and Firewood Sales, Inc. for the 2024 leaf disposal program. Each year, the village hires a contractor to dispose of the leaves removed from the streets and stockpiled by Public Works crews. 2 years ago, staff solicited pricing from vendors that perform leaf hauling for municipalities and received only 2 proposals. Landscape Materials won the contract and provided excellent service to us and our neighbors, the village of LaGrange. Landscape Materials provided a letter that they are willing to hold their pricing from last year at the rate below. Landscape Material and Firewood Sales, Inc., $900 cost per truckload. In the fiscal year, the village has budgeted $36,000 for its annual leaf removal program in the Public Works Fund, Refuse Collection and Disposal, 170-62300. Staff recommends that the board approve a contract with Landscape Material and Firewood Sales, Inc. Therefore, I make a motion, 1, to enter into a contract with Landscape Material and Firewood Sales, Inc. for the disposal of leaves at $900 per truckload and not to exceed $36,000. And 2, to authorize the village manager to execute the necessary contract documents.
Second.
Motion second, discussion, Trustee Sheehan.
Okay, so we went from one vendor with 4.49% increase to this one holding their price from last year, and that's great. Maybe a question for Superintendent Jandik. Refresh my memory. In years past, we've kind of shook it up and done it different. This is from start to finish, that they'll pick up the leaves, load the truck. It's all on them. We're not using like our end loader or anything loading the trucks, correct?
Correct, Trustee. Previous years, we used to use a different vendor, Rainbow Farms, and we used to have to load them individually as their trucks would come in. Took our machine off the street, messed up kind of our operations as well.
Sure.
They are no longer doing it, even though they had a cheaper price. They're not in the business anymore. With limited vendors, this company has been fantastic. They load their own leaves. Working with us in LaGrange, we get much better pricing,
Perfect.
and we get leaves hauled out a lot quicker.
Perfect, thank you on that.
Trustee Caputo.
I have one quick question. I saw we have the budget of $36,000. How did we do? I mean, I'm not holding to dollars and cents, but do we stay within the budget that we did last year? You know, they're keeping the price the same, or do we exceed what our budget was?
It's the same budget number as last year, and we were within that limit. We've been very good about managing how many leaves we have and to what we get hauled out each year.
Great, thank you.
See no other comments, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Lastly, we have the 2024-25 tree trimming program contract award. Purpose is to approve a 1-year contract with Synot Tree Service for the annual tree trimming program. The village has and maintains a vibrant urban forest. Money is budgeted annually to trim the trees in a specific area, of which Public Works has 5 designated areas. Village staff created an RFP with detailed specification. 4 proposals were received, and the pricing as follows. Excuse me. You see the base bid is from the East IHB to Maple, 31st to 26th. You see Synot came in at $69,150. The highest coming in a little over $112,000. The budgeted amount was $75,000. Staff recommends awarding a 1-year contract with Synot Tree Service, Inc. Therefore, make a motion to approve a 1-year contract between the Village of LaGrange Park and Synot Tree Service, Inc. for the 2024-2025 tree trimming program in a not-to-exceed amount of $75,000 and to authorize the village manager to execute necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion, trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Superintendent Janik, refresh my memory, I think not last year, but the year before we used Synod, correct?
Correct. 2 years ago, Senat won the contract.
How did that work out?
Their performance, their work ethic was fantastic. We had no issues with trees getting done properly. We had a couple small issues just about extra tree trimming, but again, they know what's in the contract. We're given a map of the location to inspect the trees beforehand, so we're confident they're going to do a good job.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know you see a lot of their trucks in town and doing residential stuff, so they must be doing something right. The area that's getting done this fall, winter, is that what, 7 years, 8 years? How long has it been?
This section will be 5 years.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have on that.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zor?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have two items. One, the monthly finance report through September, and then one item for discussion and action. First of all, Village has completed 5 months, or 42% of the fiscal year 2025, which began May 1st and concludes April 30th of 2025. Fiscal year to date general fund revenue of $5,083,500 is at 43.4% of the annual budget and 1.9% million higher than last year, primarily due to the timing of property tax receipts. Property tax receipts are at 1.88 million, greater than last year. The county mailed out second installment bills late last year, which were due December 1st, and this year the second installment bills returned to a typical due date of August 1st. Other local taxes are lower by $20,574, or almost 6%, due to the timing of cable franchise fee payments. Intergovernmental receipts are up $162,236, or about 10% from last year. Sales tax and income tax continue to trend higher, while state use tax and personal property replacement tax are lower. Licenses and registration fees are $1,470, or 1.2% lower than last year. Our permit receipts are at $107,224, or 38.3% lower than the prior year, and that's due primarily to several large new construction projects last year. Charges for services are $86,690, or 18% lower than last year, due to ambulance service receipts and the timing of water tower lease payments. Fine revenue is at $22,880, or 54.2% higher than last year. Miscellaneous revenue is at $52,703, or 27.5% greater than last year due to increased interest income. And total general fund expenditures are at $4,372,803, and that is 39.9% of the annual budget, and $875,477, or 25% greater than last year. The increase is primarily due to the police pension contribution, which timed it's recorded at property tax receipts are received, and importantly, all departments are within budget expectations at this point. And then I have one item for discussion and action. And this is regarding the Truth in Taxation Law. The Truth in Taxation Law requires that the village board estimates the amount of property tax to be levied at least 20 days prior to the adoption of the annual tax levy. The village's proposed 2024 tax levy ordinance will be reviewed at the November 12th work session and then included on the agenda for board approval at the November 26th meeting. The State of Illinois Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, which is referred to as PTEL, limits the amount the village may increase the aggregate levy each year to the lesser of 5% or the change in the CPI, Consumer Price Index. The term aggregate levy is specifically defined by the Truth in Taxation Law to include the corporate and special purpose levies and excludes levies for debt service. For the 2024 levy, the PTEL CPI change is 3.4%, and therefore that's the limiting factor. The PTEL authorizes the village to collect additional taxes on new property value. Over the last 10 years, the value of new property has ranged between 0% and 0.4% of the village's total equalized assessed value. We will not know the actual amount of new value until well after the village's tax levy ordinance is due to the county. As such, an estimated increase of 1% has been incorporated into the levy estimate calculation to ensure all potential new value is included. The county will then reduce the village's actual extension to the amount allowed under the PTEL. The proposed estimate aggregate levy for 2024 is $4,502,507, which is 4.4% above the 2023 extension of $4,313,856. The estimated aggregate levy is less than a 5% increase, and therefore a public hearing is not required by the Truth in Taxation Law. It's important to note that for most residents, the actual increase in the village's property tax due to the aggregate levy should be approximately the PTL CPI amount of 3.4%. The 4.4% total increase includes the 1% new value estimate. The village's 2024 property tax levy will also include a debt service amount for the 2016 road and fire bonds approved by referendum. For the 2024 levy, the debt service levy is $1,246,000, compared to $1,244,750 for 2023. The village board abated $50,000 of the 2023 debt service levy because there were additional funds available due to the interest and county's loss factor. A similar abatement will be presented for village board consideration based on the projected balance of the debt service fund. As such, I'd like to submit a motion that the president and village board of trustees estimate that the amount necessary to be raised from the 2024 property tax levy is $4,502,507, exclusive of debt service, which amount is 4.4% greater than the amount of taxes extended for 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Laudner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an annual event and process that we must go through to continue operating the village as effectively and efficiently as we can with these funds. So I certainly continue to support this. I do have one question for our finance director. Is the 1%, given all the new construction that's gone on in the village, in your opinion, adequate? Should we get closer to the 4.99%, or is there some, there's generally a year delay in when some of these taxes kick in, and the sale depends, but your opinion is 1% adequate?
Yes, I think 1% is adequate. We have not hit the 1% in our history. And if you look at the TIFs as well, any commercial increase in new value in those TIFs doesn't affect this either, so it's only residential.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. No further comment or question.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Laudner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
That concludes my report and action item for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lauder. Okay, moving on to other reports. Our village clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a quick reminder for any person seeking information about the process and requirements for a candidate seeking election to the offices that are up for election this coming April of 2025. They should consult the 2025 candidate guide for the consolidated election, which can be found on the Illinois State Board of Elections website, which is www.elections.il.gov. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Megan. Our village treasurer.
No report today, Mr. President.
Our village engineer.
No report, Mr.
Our village attorney.
No report, Mr. President.
And our commercial revitalization committee, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Branding and identity plan. The village board approved the CRC's recommendation for a new visual identity and logo at the October 8th work session meeting. The village's branding consultant, SPAN, is now developing a streetscape toolkit based on the new design direction. For more information about the branding and identity plan, please visit the village's webpage. Facade and property revitalization program. The Village of LaGrange Park and Central Federal Savings and Loan hosted a meet and greet event on October 16th to promote the village's facade and property revitalization program. This reimbursement grant assists property and business owners to enhance the external appearance of their properties, and Central Federal is helping fund improvements by offering low interest rates with no points, closing costs, or document fees. Visit the village's website for more information and contact Derek Rockwell, drockwell@lagrangepark.org with any other questions. Haunted Trolley event. Please join the LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce for the annual trolley event on Friday, October 25th from 4 to 6 p.m. Trolleys will be shuttling up and down 31st Street with stops at all of your favorite businesses to trick or treat. Mark your calendar and don't miss out on this family-friendly event. Lastly, CRC Committee. The next Commercial Revitalization Committee meeting will take place Tuesday, November 12th at 6 p.m. at Village Hall. Businesses and members of the public are invited to attend and provide input on how the village can best support new and existing business and enhance the commercial areas in LaGrange Park. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Motion to approve Committee and Collectors report is presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I just have a couple of items. I think I'll turn on my speaker here. Happy birthday to Trustee Zora yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Hank, I want to thank you for continually coming to our meetings. I know it's your job, but we appreciate you, and I think we've developed a relationship with you, so thank you. I think everybody has seen, or those that haven't, we have moved up in the board. We had a home sale in our committee for $2.1 million.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Trustee Lautner's moving, but but that's, I never thought we would see anything like that here in our community, but it's here. So we're very grateful that people want to invest that kind of money into our community. Yeah. We have an adjudicator. Julie and I met with LaGrange twice last week. We interviewed three finalists, and the individual I can mention.
Yes.
Yes. So the individual is John Simpson. He's a local attorney. He went to Nazareth. He knows the community. I think we're going to be served very well. Julia, you have a couple comments?
I just wanted to, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to get back to Trustee Sheehan's question that was asked earlier regarding the GIS consortium. The increase to the annual cost to the village was 4.9% this year. You asked what it was last year. Maggie was kind enough to look it up very quickly on her laptop. The answer was last year the cost went up by 3.39%. We also compared the number of hours that is provided within the contract. They remain the same. So all things being equal, it is a difference in the increase. As I'm sure the village board recalls, the consortium is a consortium of communities, mostly municipalities that are work in partnership for the services that are provided. So I can check with the GIS consortium and see whether or not the increase was due to an increase in fixed costs that we all go through, or whether it was due to an increase in a level of service. As you may recall, when they provided an overview of the benefits of membership and the different types of services that they provide, they are always evaluating the types of services and the programs that they provide and roll out to their municipal clients. And so if they have increased the level of services, we'll find that out. So the short answer is we'll find out what the difference was for the increase. And that's what I wanted to report on. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you, Julia. If anyone has any comments, we'll move on. Public participation, seeing none. Anybody have any new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Everyone have a great week. Thank you.